Imagine you sit down for your LSAT and you open to a reading comp passage on something like mitochondrial DNA or the evolution of a rare bird species. You read the first sentence and it feels like you're reading another language. Your brain freezes and you start to think, how am I supposed to understand this? Well, let me ask you this. What if I told you that these weird passages are the easiest way to improve your score? That by leaning into these passages instead of avoiding them, you could not only score higher, but make every other passage feel simpler. Today, I'm going to show you the exact framework to dominate these passages, turning your weakest section into your strongest weapon. First, for those who don't know me, my name is Steve Schwartz. I've been teaching the LSAT since 2005, and I personally increased my own LSAT score from a 152 to a 175. Now let's talk about why these passages are so important. First, they're intimidating for almost everyone, and that's where the opportunity lies. Most students lose confidence the moment they see words they don't understand, like epigenetics or quantum field theory. But here's the thing. The LSAT doesn't care if you know these topics. It's not testing your knowledge of science or history. It's testing how well you can process unfamiliar and complex information. And here's the truth. The weird passages follow patterns. Patterns that, once you see them, make even the most confusing material manageable. But before we get into the framework to tackle them, let me tell you a quick story about a student I worked with. Jake was a student who had a huge mental block with science passages. He was consistently scoring around -12 on reading comp, and it was killing his overall score. His strategy was simple. Avoid science passages at all costs. If one popped up, he'd either skip it entirely or rush through it without understanding a word. Sound familiar? But avoiding the problem didn't work. He wasn't improving, and his confidence was in the gutter. So we tried something different. I introduced him to what I call the weird to win method. At first, he was skeptical, but within a few weeks of deliberate practice, he started seeing results. By the time test day rolled around, he wasn't just handling science passages, he was scoring -2 on them, and his overall reading comp score jumped 10 points. This method isn't just for people like Jake. It's for anyone who feels overwhelmed by the hardest LSAT passages. Let's break it down. The Weird to Win method framework is designed to simplify the most intimidating passages into something you can tackle with confidence. It has 5 steps. Anchor, find the clash, ignore the fluff, predict the questions, and deliberate practice. Let's dive into each one. Step 1, you anchor yourself in the introduction. That is your roadmap. Every passage starts by telling you why it exists. What is the author trying to explain, defend, or analyze? Your job is to find that purpose quickly. Is the author introducing a debate, explaining a theory, or presenting a surprising discovery? For example, let's say the passage starts with something like, recent studies in epigenetics have challenged the long-held belief that genetic inheritance is fixed. Boom, that's your anchor. The passage is going to revolve around this debate, the new studies versus the old belief. If you miss this, you'll spend the rest of the passage lost. Step 2, find the core conflict. Almost every science passage revolves around a clash. It could be between two theories, conflicting interpretations of data, or a surprising discovery that challenges the status quo. Your job is to find this core conflict because it's where the questions will focus. Think of it like this. The LSAT is less interested in the details of the science and more interested in how the author presents arguments, evidence, and counter-arguments. Once you spot the conflict, you can predict the author's structure and where the questions will go. Step 3, ignore the fluff. And this is where most people get stuck. They see jargon and they totally freak out. But you don't need to understand what mitochondrial biogenesis means to answer the questions. Jargon is just decoration, and the LSAT is using it to see if you'll get distracted. Your job is to focus on how the jargon is used in the argument. Ask yourself, is this term being used as evidence, background information, a counterpoint? You don't need to decode every word. You just need to understand its role in the passage. Step 4, predict the questions. By this point, you've anchored yourself in the intro, spotted the core conflict, and ignored the fluff. Now it's time to predict the questions. Most LSAT questions focus on the same predictable areas: the main idea, the author's attitude, specific details, or the relationship between two ideas. Once you've read the passage with this framework in mind, you'll start to see where these questions are coming from. For example, if the passage introduced a debate between two theories, you can bet there's going to be a question asking you to describe the difference between them or identify evidence supporting one side. Finally, step 5, practice deliberately, and this is where most people fall short. They do random passages without a clear strategy. That's like going to the gym and lifting random weights without a plan. Instead, dedicate a week to focusing solely on science passages. Use this framework for every passage, analyze your mistakes, and refine your process. Mastering one passage type will build skills that transfer to every other type of passage. And if you'd like my help putting together a personalized day-by-day study plan, helping you master science reading comp passages without neglecting the other areas, building up to test day with full-length time practices, that is exactly what we do for students at LSAT Unplugged with our personalized day-by-day study plans. We pair them with private one-on-one coaching on a consistent weekly basis so you can ask questions and get feedback on what you're getting wrong and why. If you'd like my support, you could check out the links below to find out more and to book a call with me and my team. We'd be glad to help you out. Now, why does the Weird to Win method work so well? It's simple. The LSAT rewards structure and precision, not brute force. By focusing on the core patterns of the passage, rather than getting bogged down in the details, you're training your brain to think like the test writers. And once you start seeing these patterns, they're impossible to unsee. Most people avoid their weak spots. They skip the hard passages and hope for an easier LSAT. But you're not most people. By mastering these difficult passages, you're giving yourself an edge. You're building the confidence, precision, and speed that sets top scorers apart. And here's the kicker. The skills you gain from science passages help with every other passage type too. And again, if you'd like my help crafting a personalized study plan to master reading comp along with the rest of the LSAT on your journey to 170 plus, we can pair you with private one-on-one coaching on a consistent weekly basis. You could check out the links below to find out more and to book a call with me and my team. We'd be glad to help you out. So the next time you see a passage about quantum physics or some obscure scientific discovery, don't panic. Lean in, use the Weird to Win method to decode the structure, ignore the fluff, and predict the questions. These passages aren't obstacles, they're opportunities. Anyway, folks, that's all for now. In the meantime, I wish you all the best and take care.